Have you ever stopped to wonder if getting sick is about more than just germs or, plain bad luck? Today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating spiritual text. It's called Mantra Chikitsa Sadhana by Pandit Kedarnath Mishra, and it offers a totally different way of looking at health and healing. So let's see what it's all about. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into the book's really unique take on why we get sick in the first place. Then, we'll jump into its proposed solution, which, believe it or not, involves sound. After that, we'll see how balancing our inner elements is key. And finally, we'll look at the bigger lifestyle picture that pulls it all together. And of course, we'll wrap up with a final thought to chew on. It's a question we all end up asking at some point, right? Why do we really get sick? And usually our first thought is to point fingers at stuff on the outside. A virus, an injury, maybe something we ate. But this book, it really makes you stop and think, what if the real cause is buried much, much deeper? So the book kicks things off by flipping the script. It tells us to look inward, suggesting that the real root of our sickness isn't out there somewhere, but actually starts from within us. Okay, so on one hand, you've got the conventional view. It's all about physical things like bacteria, viruses, genetics. But on the other hand, this text presents something totally different. It suggests that illness can actually come from these unresolved energies, what it calls karmic debt, and from a deep imbalance in the very elements that make us up. And this is really the core idea the book puts forward. It says that sins, and maybe a better way to think of that is unresolved negative actions or energies from past lives, can actually show up physically as diseases in this life. That's a pretty profound concept, right? It totally shifts the focus from just treating the sniffles to trying to heal a deep spiritual root cause. So if the problem is rooted in these, subtle energies, then how in the world do you even begin to fix that? Well, the book's answer is fascinating. It points to one of the most powerful and ancient tools we have, sound. And that brings us right to the heart of it all, mantra chikitsa, which you can think of as mantra therapy. This is a system of healing that has nothing to do with pills or medicine. It's all about vibration. The idea is to use these specific sacred sounds, mantras, to basically tune our inner world and bring everything back into harmony. So you might be wondering, how is this actually supposed to work? Well, according to the text, it's not just about wishful thinking. The idea is that every single mantra has its own unique vibrational frequency. And when you chant it, those vibrations literally resonate through your body. They're believed to be powerful enough to clear out energetic blockages and fix those deep-seated imbalances that cause illness in the first place. But wait, sound is only one piece of the puzzle. This ancient wisdom goes even deeper, connecting our own personal health to the very building blocks of the universe. So let's dive into that connection. All right, so the text explains that our bodies are kind of like a tiny version of the whole universe. They're made up of 5 fundamental elements, the Panchtatva: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, or space. When you're perfectly healthy, it means all 5 of these are in perfect balance. So, what's a disease? Well, it's basically just a sign that one or more of those elements has gone a little haywire. So the obvious question is, how do we get that balance back? And what's really cool is the book suggests these beautifully simple, totally practical things you can do. To balance the earth element, just walk barefoot on the ground. For water, take a dip in some fresh, natural water. For fire, get some morning sun on your skin. For air, it's all about deep breathing exercises. And for ether, that sense of space, you find a quiet spot and meditate. It's really all about getting back in touch with nature. Okay, so we've got sound and we've got the elements. But how does this all come together? What's the whole shebang? Well, the book is super clear on this. This is not a quick fix. It's really about embracing a whole new path to wellness. You see, the power of these mantras gets supercharged when it's part of a bigger commitment. It works best when you're living a lifestyle that's clean, disciplined, and pure. Not just on the outside, but on the inside too. Think of it this way. The mantra is the tool, but your lifestyle is the foundation you're building on. You really need both. So what does that lifestyle actually look like? Well, the text breaks it down into 4 key pillars. First up is Satvik bhojan, which means a pure and simple diet. Second is upyukt shram, basically doing appropriate, meaningful work that isn't too strenuous. Third, samay par gehari neend, getting timely, deep sleep. And finally, and this one might be the most important, man ko halka rakhna, keeping your mind light, free from all that extra stress and negativity. Now, the book is packed with specific mantras for all sorts of things, but it really shines a spotlight on a few that are seen as universally powerful. And a perfect example of this is the Vishnu Sahasranama, the 1,000 names of Vishnu. The text actually calls this chant a remedy for all diseases. It's like a spiritual and physical master key that can help recalibrate everything. So, as we start to wrap up this quick look into mantra Chikitsa Sadhana, it really leaves us with a pretty powerful idea to think about for our own lives. Look, this isn't about throwing modern medicine out the window, not at all. It's really about expanding our whole idea of what health even means. The book just invites us to ask a question. What if our journey to being well isn't just about the food we eat or the pills we take? What if it's also about the vibrations we put out there, the elements we keep in balance, and the kind of life we choose to lead? It's just a really fascinating thought to leave you with.